and I'm here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting January the 29th, 2018. This week I wanted to work with a specific deck, so the deck that I've chosen to assist me for this week's reading is the Arcana Tarot Playing Cards. They are by Chris of Dianco, and they are published by Dead on Paper. And there's a twofold reason for this week's deck selection. So the first is I realized I hadn't worked with a tarot deck in some time, but I also wanted to still continue to work with a playing card deck. So this one fits the bill on both of those fronts. But the second reason is because I was reminded through one of the comments I received in regard to last week's reading that I hadn't used a tarot deck in some time, because the person who sent the comment, Lionel, one of my viewers, addressed the sign-off in his comment by saying, "Have a tarot-tastic week." And he commented that I hadn't used that sign-off in a long time, and he thought it might be because either I thought it was cheesy or other people might have found it to be cheesy, and so that is not the case. The reason I haven't used it is because I hadn't worked with a tarot deck in a long time. So once I saw that, I realized it's been a while since I worked with tarot, so that is another reason for the deck selection. So I get to use the sign-off at the end. So again, we're working with the Arcana Tarot Playing Cards. They are by Chris of Dianco, and they are published by Dead on Paper. So I have the deck on hand. I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the cards. And as I do, I'm sticking with my usual intention and question for these weekly general readings, and that is, what do we need to know for the week ahead? Now I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the cards my other way, just so I can have the best shuffle possible. I'm feeling that will do, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut the cards. And now fan them out. And I'm working with my usual standard line of 5, so I'm picking 5 cards in the fan that are getting my attention. And I'm looking for the 5th card, which is right here. So I'm taking the remainder of the deck up and putting it to one side. And now I have the 5 cards in front of me. And just as I do every week, I start with the middle card, and the middle card for me always represents the central issue for the week ahead, or something that we're being asked to focus on going forward. So here we have, here we have the 7 of Hearts. So Hearts is a suit for me that represents feelings, emotions, relationships, so there may be something having to do with that as a focus for the week. In particular, the 7 of Hearts is a card for me that represents high hopes. So this could be that we are centering on things that we are feeling very hopeful about in the future. So there is that. Another possibility with the 7 of Hearts, I tend to look at Hearts as a suit that represents healing, and 7 is the number of spirituality, so there may be for some people a focus on either healing something on a spiritual level, or somebody is actively engaging in the process of being a spiritual healer. So there is that as another possibility. The 7 of Hearts, and I'm being told to come back to that thought about spiritual healing or being a spiritual healer. Another thing with the 7 of Hearts is that if that fits for people, if that resonates with people, a strong possibility you're being asked to consider is this idea of detox, because this card for me can represent detoxification. So it could be for someone that may be in the form of a physical detox. That could also be in the form of either an emotional detox or a psychological detox, because I tend to look at the 7 as a number of psychology and doing things on a psychological level. But this card could be saying too, if we're working on healing something, it may be for ourselves, because the 7 is a number of solitary or doing something that's going to create or allow a greater sense of self-awareness. So on that level, this is something you're being asked to engage in for yourself. but it revolves around this idea of detoxification. So a detox. So again, that could be physical, that could be emotional, psychological, spiritual, but it's calling for some form of detox. So there is that. Another possibility with the Seven of Hearts as a focus. Sometimes this card can come up when we are faced in life with a number of options. I tend to look at this as, choices, options, things of that nature, but we may be faced with a number of them, and it may be creating this sense of indecision, like I don't know which is the best option for me at this moment in time. If that's the case, or this possible scenario is that we may be engaging and trying to do a number of things all at once. I call that scattering our energy. When this card comes up in relation to that, then we're being asked to focus on one thing and ask yourself from an emotional standpoint, because remember, hearts is about feelings, what's the most important thing that I need right now at this moment in time? And allow that to help you with your decision-making process. So I'm taking a step back to ask myself, what else do I need to say about this? Oh, yes. So on a spiritual level, when this card comes up, you're being asked to engage or spend more time with your spiritual nature or your spiritual side. So some things in that regard could mean spending time meditating. This card could also be paying attention to your intuition. This is a strong intuitive card for me. So somebody could be having things of a psychic nature. I tend to look at this as psychic dreams or psychic visions. If that is too woo-woo for you, then this card could be asking you to pay attention to the messages that you are receiving through your dreams, or pay attention to the prompts that you are getting on an intuitive level through spending time in meditation. The other thing here is if we're in this process of wanting to create change in our lives, when this card comes up, we're being asked to do what's called visualization. So it's about visualizing what it is that you want for your future and having a clear mental picture on what that is, and then asking yourself in relation to the image and where you are at this moment in time, what needs to happen between where you are to where this end picture is, and that will give you the kind of blueprint or the plan going forward. So there's a sense of visualization, from a place of what it is that you want to have in your life. What would you like to create? Right, so that's a lot to say about the Seven of Hearts, so let me sum that up. So in one regard, we're being asked to pay attention to what it is that we are wanting to create in our lives, and maybe narrowing that focus down to one possible thing. Another thing is that we're being very hopeful for the future. Another possibility is that someone or some people, depending on how many this message resonates with, are being asked to do some form of detox, whether that is a physical thing, an emotional thing, psychological, or spiritual. And then the other possibility is that somebody is actively engaging and working with their spiritual side or spiritual nature, and it may be that you're being called to work with your intuition more, especially if you're finding yourself to have some sort of psychic gift, ability, or skill that you want to nurture. So that is the Seven of Hearts. So now let's take a look at the surrounding cards, because they're going to offer us more information. Starting with the card on the far left, we have, so here we have the Emperor. So the first thing that I want to say about the Emperor card is that it's a major arcana card. Major arcana cards carry more weight in a reading, so this one bears some significance. Major arcana cards also talk about important issues and important events. First thing that I want to say with the Emperor card, this is all about getting things in order. He represents structure, order, discipline, control, that kind of thing. And in a more empowering way, playing on the idea that this represents power, so I tend to look at that as personal power and self-empowerment, then this card is coming up to say, what is it that we need to do to reclaim our sense of personal power? How can we empower ourselves to be our own best authority in life? And so that will require, this idea of order, structure, being disciplined. All those things are very empowering. But what do we need to do to create that space? Because the 4 is a number of foundation. This is the 4th major arcana card. So that represents foundation for me. So setting a foundation or laying a foundation to build on in the future. But just generally speaking, could be we are now coming into a space and time where we are wanting to create more order in our lives. So how do we go about that? So that is the Emperor. Now moving to the card in between the Emperor and the Seven of Hearts, we have, okay, so here we have the Jack of Spades. So for me, a Spades card, if you're no stranger to how I read playing cards, for me, Spades always represents blocks, challenges, problems, difficulties, but it can also represent problem solving and decision making. So the first thing that I want to say, it goes back to this idea of maybe kind of narrowing our focus down to one thing to take action on this week, because that would solve a problem. If the problem is that we're scattering our energies or that we're kind of all over the place, then this card would say solving the problem would just be a matter of focusing on one thing. And then the Jack is on a horse. So this is about creating the kind of energy that would allow direction, action, and progression, because this card represents moving forward. All the Jacks or Knights in tarot would represent this idea of taking action so we can move forward. So what would you need to clear out, eliminate possibly, because Spades represents elimination, that would allow you a greater sense of control. And also too, going back to this idea of detoxification, detoxification allows us to clear out, whether it's physically or metaphorically, the things that are no longer working in our lives, because that's the toxins, right? When we detoxify, we're releasing all the toxins. So that could be literally the things in our body or our body's holding on to, that's no longer serving and supporting its best and proper functions, or this idea of stuff that we're holding on to in our heads, in our emotional bodies, that's kind of tripping us up, that's kind of keeping us from moving forward. So that's how I would read the Jack of Spades. Now let's take a look at the cards on the other side of the line. So, okay, so closest to the Seven of Hearts, we have the Two of Diamonds. Okay, so now diamonds is the suit that can represent things like energy. So that plays in this idea of detoxification on a physical level, because one of the chief benefits of doing a detox is that it can raise our energy levels, right? It can make us feel a sense of being more productive. So there is that. I'm not a doctor, so I'm putting my disclaimer out there, but if somebody is actually doing a physical detox, the Two of Diamonds is a card that can rule the stomach. So it may be helpful for digestion and helping your digestive system by doing a detox. It could also be too that if you're doing a detox on a physical level, you may want to keep in mind the things that you are eating. You may be asked to maybe make some changes with your diet in particular, because the two is a number of balance. So it could be a matter of just balancing out your digestive system, and one of the ways to do that might be taking a look at what it is that you are choosing to eat, choosing to have in your diet, because it may be saying too, like, that could be one of the things you're being asked to make some changes around. And if you were to do that, then I'm getting with the Jack of Spades, that might quicken your digestive and elimination system, because I'm getting the sense like the Jack of Spades and the Two of Diamonds might be suggesting that your digestive system is slow. And this might be something that will be helpful in speeding it up. So there is that. Now, another possibility here is that someone may be engaging with a situation that is producing financial difficulty. If I take the spade and the diamond and put them together, for me that represents financial difficulties. If that is the case, then the Two of Diamonds is offering a couple of possibilities. Number one, what would be helpful is taking a look at your budget or balancing your checkbooks, because this is a matter of a spending plan, budget, or balancing checkbooks. And that would go back to the Emperor. This would be the first step in creating the sense of order, structure, and maybe even discipline on a financial level. So there is that. Another possibility here is that you may have to, if you're wanting to create financial increase, may have to consider the idea of doing moonlighting, because I tend to look at the Two of Diamonds as a moonlighting card. It could be saying too, like, you are creating space in your life for dual sources of income, two sources of income, that kind of thing. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. So again, moonlighting could be getting a second job or looking at other ways to create income. For the person who's doing the detox, it may be a matter of looking at food choices and finding ways that will help speed up your digestive and elimination systems. I'm taking a step back and asking myself, what else do I need to say about the Two of Diamonds? Nothing else is coming to me in the moment, but I may come back to this card. But I'm feeling I hit the two major points with that. Right, okay. So the last card is, okay, so I love this. So here we have the Chariot ending things up. So the Chariot, like the Emperor, is a major arcana card. So it's very interesting. We have a major arcana card at the beginning. We have a major arcana card at the end. So there's something about the way a situation starts out that's significant and important, and especially with the Seven of Hearts as a center card, important for either your psychological growth and development or your spiritual growth and development. And same thing with the Chariot, right, being at the end. It shows that whatever actions that we take, the easiest thing with the Chariot is that whatever the actions that we take is that they're going to be showing some signs of success. I tend to look at this card as progression, advancement, moving forward, because we have two horses on the card. So that idea, like the Jack of Spades, progression, advancement, moving forward, being successful in our endeavors. Now, here's the thing with the Chariot. The Chariot has two horses on it again. So this card is about not feeling like we're being pulled in two different directions. Again, like the Seven of Hearts, this idea about possibly scattering our energy. It's about coming back and focusing on one thing at a time. From a spiritual perspective, this card can come up when we are questioning our direction in life. So I tend to look at this as either our direction, like we're planning something and we're questioning whether we're on the right path or the right track with that, or in a larger sense with our overall life direction, we're just saying, where am I going in life? Am I moving in the right direction, or am I on track? This card at the end is a positive note. It says, like, you are on track. You may just need to be looking at some of the choices that you are making. The last thing that I want to say about this card in relation to the Emperor card, sometimes the Chariot is about who's in the driver's seat, right? So it brings back that idea that I talked about, power and being in control. Sometimes with the Chariot, it asks the question, who's in the driver's seat? Are you in the driver's seat of your own life, or are you in the passenger seat, abdicating control and letting other people or other things be the driving force or the driving influence in your life? Like this card coming up would suggest, and since it mirrors the Emperor, it's like you're being called to kind of resume power and control in your life. Get back in the driver's seat. You cannot be the passenger in your own life experience. You have to be the driver. Now, also, too, if we are working on creating change and wanting to move forward, then this card would be saying, what's the fuel? What's the driving force? What are you going to allow to be the motivation, whether it's looking at an old story and looking at what used to fuel you, what used to motivate you, what used to be the driving force. But if you're changing the story and you're wanting to move in a new direction, then what's going to be the new driving force? What's going to be the new motivation? Especially when you start out on your journey and you come to a speed bump in the road. That's when you need to kind of come back and take a look at what was the motivation, what was the intention for me embarking on this new journey through life. Because that's going to be the thing that's going to fuel you, especially when you come up against challenges. So on that note, I'm going to end and wrap up this week's Oracle Outlook. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and as I close, I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for this week's reading. And I'd like to wish you a wonderful day. And for Lionel especially, I'm hoping that you have a tarot-tastic week. Take care.